Everybody, welcome to the Market Minds episode number, I don't know. Uh, Today, I am Charles Moon sitting in for our great CEO, Scott Bauer. Folks, market conditions are making me seasick, right? Rocking back and forth, trading on the extremes, no relevancy, trying to figure out what's going on in the markets, but a lot of dips to rips to dips to more rips to more dips. What's up, Jake and everybody else? Glad to glad to have you. So today, well, uh, we got a pretty prominent name that's going to be reporting earnings. A small company, you may have heard of it. Its name is Amazon. Now, it's really interesting to see the performance of Amazon. They actually just bounced back. They were about to go negative for the day. I was looking earlier when I was in the AI room, and the call put imbalance. It's heavily weighted, quite honestly, for the bulls in the sense that there's a lot more call buying in terms of speculation versus put buying. We're at like 1.88 to 1. And what was really intriguing was where the distribution of volume was. For the puts, over 40% were on the 0 to 20 delta. That means a lot of people are buying far out of the money puts in anticipation that Amazon's going to drop. Why would they anticipate that? Well, the two peer companies that are very similar to Amazon that's already reported, Microsoft and Google, well, they didn't go up. They actually went down quite a bit. So it's easy to understand and see. But on the call side, this is where it's interesting. There's a small distribution of 0 to 20, but the majority of the volume is actually between the 40 and the 60 delta, which is at the money to in the money. And, with obviously the implied volatility being high, premiums are expensive. That means that either smart money or bigger money is actually betting to the upside. So maybe they're taking these at the money calls and trying to hedge with those out of the money puts, which doesn't really make sense, right? Um, but all in all, what should we expect from Amazon? Well, the number one thing that is going to be really important relative to Amazon, quite honestly, is going to be the keyword expenditures. How many of you have heard, right, these earning calls with these tech companies, and they've been mentioning expenditures? This is something that they haven't done too often in recent quarters. How many of you have heard them mention expenditures? Let me know. What's up, John Pro V1? Let's go, baby. How's it going? What's up, Gilbert? Now, this is important to understand because I've actually taken on a few trades today in companies where I'm anticipating that we're going to see them go up regardless of how Amazon moves. And yes, it is a bit nerve wracking because Amazon could affect, the NASDAQ up or down, perhaps anywhere from 1% to 2%. So expenditures is really important. And frankly, if Amazon talks about expenditures just like Google does, there's a small company which we're going to talk about. Michael, if you could pop it to my screen sharing, thank you. Obviously, we're talking about Amazon, but a company that could make a huge benefit, which is actually pretty performing pretty well today, is Nvidia. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by that, NVIDIA and AVGO had some really strong spikes while Google's earnings reported, and Google went way down, right? So, why did NVIDIA and AVGO go up? It's because Google talked about expenditures. Now, from the fundamental standpoint for Google, when you make less revenue and spend more money, that's generally not going to be viewed kindly by Wall Street. That's why Google cratered down to, I believe, as low as like the low 180s before bouncing back and after hours trading. But Nvidia, if you notice, since Google earnings has been extending and moving higher. And when a Google says, well, we're going to spend $72 billion in expenditures, And a lot of that is going to be directed at Nvidia. You can see why Wall Street is excited about the upside potential in names like AVGO and Nvidia. And that's why it's key today, because Amazon could still go down, but cause these semiconductors to go up. Why? Expenditures. That's today's, well, that's not the word of the day, but that is the key word you're going to want to be focusing in on this earnings call. So, what do we think about Amazon? I'm just going to go back to Amazon really quickly. Well, Amazon is pricing in a pretty big move in the scale of around 14 to $15. So I'm going to bring Amazon onto the screen. I'm going to tell you something. Uh, I it is very likely, right, because of how Microsoft and Google performed. It is likely that Amazon could move a lot lower. But I almost feel like everything is kind of building up in anticipation. And if Amazon surprises to the upside, because of kind of the sentiment and how the market is trading and is viewing Amazon, because of indicated indications from Microsoft and Google, if they move higher. And the question is if. I don't know if they're going to. You and I know about is the same amount. If they move higher, that move could actually be a lot more explosive than the market anticipates. And if you're wondering why, it's because people are right now betting on the downside, right? Well, if Google went down and if Microsoft went down, well, then Amazon's probably going to go down. That's not necessarily the case. So there's a few factors to look for. One, Amazon's growth in ad revenue generation. This is a new metric that they've included over the last few earnings report. It'll be interesting to see if that is ascending. Two, AWS. Will we see record numbers? And if we do, well, the slight decrease in Azure, maybe that's the transition into AWS. Number three, it's really going to be tied to AI. Right. We look at e-commerce, guys, a lot of people, I understand it with Amazon, they look at e-commerce numbers, but frankly, Amazon has almost no margin, from profitability on e-commerce. Their profitability comes from AWS and cloud services. And what are they going to do with deep tech? What are they doing with AI, right? There's a lot of initiation, pushing, and development with them. And so if they start glowingly talk about AI and how it's going to help transform their business to becoming even more of a powerhouse, and AWS numbers are strong, guys, Amazon could be explosive. Now, where they are right now, right? Let's say somewhere around a $15 move, that puts them at 252. I think that they could scale to that range, perhaps even go as far as around 275 if the numbers are extremely strong and guidance is very powerful. I give that about a 2 out of 10 chance. There's a chance that they could absolutely get obliterated to the downside because we see a decrease in AWS and forward guidance isn't great. So that means that would put them in the range of around 225 bucks. 225 bucks puts them at the 50 simple moving average. But the depth of weakness could really crater it down towards 220 to 216. And if it's really bad, that really puts them in the range of somewhere between 195 and 210. So I don't know. Can it be very neutral as well? Yeah, maybe some of the numbers are okay. Maybe some of the numbers are just yawn. Maybe some of the numbers are just whatever, and the market could take it as that as well. I'm okay with that. Obviously, I just don't want Amazon to just crash so hard it's going to drag the Nasdaq down 2%. So as long as they stay neutral or go up, that's a great thing for the rest of the markets, and that's going to be a great thing as well for the semiconductors. So as I talk about the semis here really quick, which are the ones that we should watch? Well, collectively, folks, I've already mentioned Nvidia and how they have performed, right? So Nvidia right now has made a screaming comeback. They were down, gap down. they came down to this major swing low and have bounced. They have been in a one, two, three, now 4 day rally here. And a lot of this propellant has been, again, due to Google, right? Expenditures, recovery, close and open above the 200-day moving average. Now, Amazon or Nvidia certainly has a bit of projectable resistance in the picture, but performance wise, they have been really strong and have started to recover. Well, let's look at AVGO. AVGO has started making a screaming comeback now. They're down for the day, but they're actually still maintaining and holding above the 20 SMA. And again, after they slid, they came and anchored at this key level, which is the linear regression mean. And now they're following support at the 20 SMA. Folks, I don't know if you know this, but I teach this in the room. When I find support following the stock up quickly like a staircase, it's in a very bullish mode. So that's all we're looking for and anticipate in the near term. Names like VRT, Victor Romeo Tango, also came down to test the 20 SMA, higher low reversal. So, for those that are familiar, they're creating what's known as a W formation, which is a quick transition of trend. Again, they're approaching resistance at this 125, but if they can leapfrog that level where there's a massive gap to fill, and that closing price is going to be at 146, a very transparent upside target. How about this name, which I don't feel gets talked about enough? MRVL, Mike Romeo Victor Lima. They're in the kind of the same case as a bullish thesis with AVGO. They came down to that linear regression mean. Yesterday, they held at the 50 SMA, and today they're bouncing at the 20 SMA. And just like I stated, when stocks tend to follow support, especially at key technical levels, higher, right? As the stock price goes higher, that's a really good bullish indication that the markets want to go risk on. Now, we could certainly look at a lot of different other components, names like ALAB, um, ARM is another one. ARM was an incredibly strong performer. They were down to the 200 EMA on the hourly chart right here. They spiked up very nicely, but they haven't completely filled the gap just yet. This is certainly something to keep an eye on. But by far, the leaders and the names that you should be watching are the strongest performers: NVIDIA, AVGO, MRVL, VRT. These are some of my favorites. Now, I will state that there is a subset reason why SMCI is performing well. For those that don't know, they're going to be hosting a webcast disclosing their second quarter financials, etc. And remember, that was the biggest concern, right? That SMCI was potentially cooking their books. Well, obviously they've gone a bit risk on. They have followed in suit with Nvidia. They're still finding a bit of technical resistance. The breakout zone is going to be above 38. I expect the stock to get really frothy above 38. So until we could really push beyond that threshold, we need to temper our expectations just a bit in the very near term. Now, folks, I would love to answer some quick questions about stocks. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we get this started? Today's word of the day is books. Hulk like book. BOOKS. Again, the overall market development is really interesting. And I hope that we can continue to rise, obviously. But in the meantime, if this market condition continues to deteriorate a bit, well, obviously the last 2 weeks have been a bit dynamic. We got the new president, a lot of executive orders. We had the FOMC meeting. We've had the MAG 7 predominant earnings reports. Um, these are all things that are kind of going to shake up the markets a bit, and it's not going to slow down. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to get a lot of the growth stocks, a lot of the cybersecurity and cloud stocks start to perform. So tech is in this like really kind of jiggy, but with the potential of huge upside, and obviously, massive implications of broad negative results and returns. but we haven't really seen that. Numbers overall has been pretty decent. Um, Surprising in some senses. And obviously, the Big Seven has had a bit mixed in terms of results, but we'll have to wait and see how that's going to take place. Today, AI had several really interesting names setting up for triggers. We had names like NVIDIA and Apple showing up on the bullish burst list. So, AI also like these names to the upside. And speaking of AI, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I will be hosting a webinar about my AI program. So, folks, if you haven't heard about my AI program or haven't been involved in my AI program, I know a lot of you that are in here right now are from the AI room, but if you haven't, feel free to sign up. We will post a link. I don't know where the link is, but we will post a link to the webinar that you could register, and it'll be at this evening. Kind of give you a little glimpse about what it's all about. So, folks, if you have some questions, let's fire away. Let's talk about stocks here. Jeremy says, thoughts on a short on GM under the 200-day moving average? Yeah, the answer is yes. Jeremy, that's actually one of the ideas that's coming in from AI, right? So, what's really interesting here, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go down, but if you look at the behavior over the last 3 days, and I think this is why you're trying to bring this up, they've been flip flopping back and forth, right? But today they had a direct reaction at that level, right? Negative impact. Now, I will state that the Dow is down and they are slightly up for the session. So there is a bit of a fight back from the bulls. It certainly looks like the trajectory is going to work lower, especially if they revisit back towards 46. I'm almost positive if they revisit that level, they're going to work down towards 45. Again, some of this is attributed to the tariff news. Some of this is just attributed to the sector having a big slowdown. Obviously, GM has failed miserably from the EV side, but it's still a powerhouse car company. Um, and seeing how Tesla performance has been, it certainly has been a very big negative, kind of on the car industry. So, uh, I'm not I'm not excited about this, but I see the potential of it working down to 46, perhaps down to 45. I think a real big breakdown on some news could bring it down to like 41 and three quarters. It's small risk, small reward here. You know what I mean? Jake, it's always a shameless plug. That's what I got to do when I'm on here, right? Company man. Jeremy says, love the AI program. Gloria says, better go, people. It's awesome. I appreciate the feedback, everybody. Yeah, what else? What else? What else should we talk about? Let's talk about Tesla. Well, Momo traders in the room. You already know how I felt about Tesla. Did I or did I not talk about 363 as being the price to watch for the bounce? Now, that's about as much as I'm going to pat myself on the back because this could be temporary. Fact of the matter remains, if they lose this threshold, folks, it exposes Tesla to work a little bit lower. Now, once Nvidia lost the 200-day and broke through that 116 threshold, it exposed them to potentially come down to $100, and then, of course, it opens the door for them to come to 90. But obviously, they bounced back. I'm wondering what is Tesla's catalyst here because Nvidia had a catalyst, and that was a company, one of the largest companies in the world, saying we're going to throw $72 billion at this sector. I don't know what is going to help drive Tesla up. Respectfully, the greatest thing that could happen, in all honesty, is that Tesla trades on Fridays only. And if I say that jokingly, because in my room, we know that as being zero DTE day. I think 4 out of the last 5 week Fridays they've made a pump. But what's going on? Well, decreasing sales, right? Sales out of Germany was extremely weak. What 59% lowest level in years, right? And so the detriment right now is that the EV tax credit is going to go away. Uber is going to be working with Google and Waymo. And so all of a sudden, Tesla's starting to fall behind in the autonomy industry, especially where the growth cycle is going to be, which is robo taxi. Something's got to give. Elon's too busy trying to clean up our government and losing focus on what he has to do with Tesla. And with this same thing, Tesla expenditures going up on R&D, on production, and revenue coming down. That's not a great combination. We saw a powerhouse like Google absolutely get blasted to the downside because of this. And that's really important in this respect. Okay. And again, if you're just tuning in, folks, the word of the day is books. Make sure you get that word out into the chat so that Michael could put your name on the wheel. And again, folks, shameless plug, right? JJ, shameless plug. If you're not in the AI program or you haven't learned too much about it, but you're interested, I have a webinar tonight. Feel free to join us then. So Tesla at that 363, a very critical price. If they pivot, the price to watch in the near term is going to be 373, 375. That's going to be really key. As you can see here, technical resistance, an immediate shutdown. So once they lost the 50, you could see that they've gotten hooded near that 50 SMA. This was the key support, folks. We bounced off of it 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We bounced off of it yesterday. We lost it today, basically used it as resistance. Now, that being said, this 363 threshold was really important. For those that don't know how to read this information and why it was support, this was the breakout price from this particular trading range. And as you can see, Tesla got extremely frothy, right, leading up into the election day. And now we have come all the way back, a complete 180 to that breakout zone. And respectfully, this was a price level of interest historically. So far, the bounce has been in play. And if you actually think about it, this is the buyers or the bulls' last line of defense because after that, folks, there seems to be a lot of open space, lack of lines, lack of indicators that are in the picture. So, this is something that we need to keep an eye on. Now, as I mentioned, AI had also notified us on Apple. What I'm looking for in Apple right now is a breakout. They did break the 20 SMA and retrace back a bit. I said 234 was a really prominent price. I knew 233 was important, but the 100 SMA was important because of the previous behavior. Again, who wants a trading lesson or a charting lesson? Well, if you want it, great. And if you don't, I'm still going to give it. If you look at what they did on earnings, look at where they stopped. Look at where they stopped. You see that little purple line? Not the dotted line, but this line right here, and I'll highlight it. Okay. If you see it right there, everybody see that? Stopped right on that purple line. Well, if a stock comes plummeting down and that's where it pivots, that's a very significant support level because it was stopping the falling knife theoretically. Well, we did slide underneath that level, but as we have come back, notice where Apple is struggling to get above. So right now, that previous support is turning into resistance. Folks, if you don't know what that means, that's a very bearish indication, even though Apple is showing some short term bullish thesis. Why? Because yesterday they rejected at the 20 SMA. The previous day they rejected at the 20 SMA. We happened to breach above that level, but we didn't breach above the final resistance. This right now is the short term sellers pretty much line drawn in the sand. I feel that if Apple can successfully get above 234 and hold, while there's a small gap fill here, I really believe that they're going to make a move to test at the 50 SMA and potentially get back to where they were on earnings. This is important. Names like Tesla, Apple struggling, that doesn't help the NASDAQ and the broad markets. We're talking about two out of potentially the top five. We're definitely talking about the top market cap weight, and Tesla, I think, is in the top five. I may be mistaken, but we're talking about two out of the top five, at least the top seven. really bearish and struggling under these market environments. Nvidia, which by the way, Nvidia traders, right? How many of you are long Nvidia on my signals? I'm sure a lot of you are. Guess what just made new highs for the day? Here's a clue. It starts with an N and ends with an A, and in the middle has Vida. That's a great sign to see. So obviously, with Apple and Tesla struggling, if Nvidia also struggled, that would have been almost devastating for the broad markets. But now with Nvidia fighting back, possibly Tesla trying to pivot, Meta doing Meta things, making all-time highs, Google trying to bid up, Amazon perhaps making new all-time highs in this broad market. I don't it's we're in for one heck of a ride over these next few days in the markets. Expect the swings, expect the behavior. We'll see where we go. Folks, final call for the word of the day. It's books. Bravo, Oscar, Oscar, Kilo, Sierra. There's White House news. Wall Street Journal reporting White House preparing order to cut thousands of federal health workers. I'll tell you one thing. We haven't had a quiet day since Trump took office. He's keeping everybody on their toes. Traders, it's like a daily exercise. But for your calls, your puts, and your P&L. Okay, folks, last call. Last call, everybody. The books. Nah, it doesn't break my heart. It's a good thing. Listen, he could cause the markets to go down. He could cause the markets to go up. In all respect, this is a good thing for day traders. Yeah, even if it's still kind of difficult for the day traders. Really, where it's difficult is for the swing traders and the long term position traders. But that being said, if you would have said in NVIDIA just a couple weeks ago, right? If you would have said just a few weeks ago, man, I really wished I would have owned NVIDIA at $115 when it was trading at 148. Well, it came down to that level. Are you mad about it? No. Oh man, I wished I owned whoops. I wish I owned Apple, man, I should have bought it months ago at 210. Well, or 220. It came down to 220. What are you gonna do now? People probably said the same thing about Tesla. Oh my god, I missed everything on Tesla. I wish I could have bought it when it was 300 some dollar. Well, what are you guys waiting for? See, what we do intraday versus swing trading versus the longer term picture is vastly different. The outlook is different, the approach is different. And sometimes short term traders forget what they wanted in the stock because they're so focused in the now. They see the stock down for the day and think that's a really negative when quite honestly it's providing a great term opportunity for long term. Now, I don't know how Tesla's going to be long term. I'm not an analyst, but I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if Tesla's at 480 by the end of the year. Would it surprise you? Some may say yes, most will say no. Would it surprise you if Nvidia goes up to 150? Some will say yes, most will say no. You hear what I'm saying? So let's not live too much in the now. Let's make sure we're also looking at the intermediate term. And then, as traders, don't forget when in doubt, zoom out. Okay. All right, folks. So we are going to do the wheel of names. All right. So everybody that put their name on the list, I want to say good luck, everybody. Let's see who today's winner is going to be. Is it going to be the first person that said hello today? Maybe that's what you got to do. You got to be the first person. Gilbert, Gilbert, congratulations. Gloria, I hate to say it, you were so close. You were next on that list. Jake, you weren't too far as well. All right, folks, I want to say in conclusion today, keep your eyes on Amazon. Let's see if Nvidia can continue to get frothy. The rest of the market really isn't doing much. We'll see how it goes. I just want to say thanks for your participation. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget, folks, if you haven't been involved with my AI program, maybe it's time you join the webinar. Everybody else, peace and love. I am out of here. Scott Bauer will be with you tomorrow. And until then, see ya. Oh, wait. I was told to spin it again. Yes. I can't. Scott, I couldn't see you. Sorry, Mike said it. All right. All right. So spin it again. Oh boy. I don't know who this is. Do I have to spin it again one more time? Someone tell me, am I spinning it again one more time? Are we good? There he is. Here, what are your options of trading? Okay. Mike, are we good? All right, guys, I'm out of here. Peace and love until next time. See ya.